Today, let's take a closer look at the Ruger Blackhawk Single 6 Convertible, chambered in 10mm and 40 Smith Wesson. This Ruger Blackhawk comes with two cylinders that are designed to allow the 10mm and 40 Smith Wesson cartridges to correctly headspace inside the cylinder's chamber without the need for moon clips. Up front, I have to admit that I'm not a big fan of revolvers that require moon clips to be able to fire rimless cartridges, but that's just me. Seeing that this Ruger Blackhawk Convertible is a single action only revolver that requires an external plunger type extractor, rimless cartridges like the 10mm and 40 Smith & Wesson work just fine without the need for those pesky moon clips. You simply install the cylinder for whichever of the two rounds you want to fire, then insert all 6 rounds, one at a time, through the loading gate. Once fired, reopen the loading gate and push them out individually with the ejector rod. Very simple and effective, and it sure beats chasing down reloadable brass chunked out by your average semi-auto. An interesting technique for loading cartridges into this revolver involves the use of a 10mm semi-auto magazine. Double stack or single stack will do just fine. Simply slide the cartridge directly from the magazine into the chamber past the open loading gate. Works kind of like a Pez dispenser. Once you have all the chambers filled, close the loading gate and you're good to go. Okay, it's not exactly a speed loader, but with a little practice you'd be surprised how fast you can actually do it. Slipping a couple of loaded magazines into your pocket sure beats rummaging around for loose cartridges, or if you prefer, you can always carry extra ammo in a mag pouch. Unlike older single 6 revolvers, this Ruger Blackhawk incorporates a transfer bar safety, which makes it perfectly safe to carry with all 6 chambers loaded, which is something I definitely don't recommend doing with any revolver that has a hammer-mounted firing pin. Unless the hammer is resting on an empty chamber, older style revolvers could potentially go off if accidentally dropped. Thanks to having a drop bar type safety, this Ruger can't fire unless the hammer is fully cocked and the trigger is actually pulled. Most of you who follow my channel already know that I'm a big fan of the 10mm round. I also have a particular liking for the 40 Smith & Wesson round. I mentioned this in a previous video. Some states require a handgun to have a barrel length of at least 6 inches to be considered legal for hunting, which is why I specifically chose this model with the 6.5-inch barrel. It's also available with a 4 5/8-inch barrel for those of you who would prefer that length. Something else I've discovered is that this Ruger Single 6 actually saves me money. Or should I say it saves me from myself. For some reason, if I happen to take a couple of 10mm semi-autos to the range, ammo starts disappearing at a pretty alarming rate. Not so much if I happen to leave the semi-autos at home and just settle into a leisurely range session with this Ruger Convertible. For me, this revolver is a lot more practical than tactical. The grips I chose to put on this Ruger were made by Arizona Custom Grips. These are made of rosewood and feature diamond checkering. Personally, I really like the way they look on this satin stainless revolver, and they do add a better gripping surface than the smooth factory grips. Over the years, Ruger revolvers have gained a well-deserved reputation for being extremely strong and well-made. That said, this Ruger Blackhawk can certainly handle the hottest 10mm rounds on the market with ease. Years ago, I discovered the 10mm round to be inherently accurate in whatever firearm I fired it in. This Ruger Blackhawk is no exception. I found this Ruger revolver to not only be very accurate, but it's also uber reliable. Too bad I can't say the same thing about some of the semi-autos I've owned. Some didn't like feeding hollow points, others needed the recoil spring recalibrated to correctly cycle certain brands of ammo, and so forth. Those simply don't exist when firing those same rounds in this revolver. To date, I've fired several hundred rounds each of 40 Smith & Wesson and 10mm rounds through this Ruger, and it's functioned flawlessly. Absolutely no complaints. Seeing that this Ruger Convertible is a fairly recent addition to my collection, I plan to do a follow-up review after I've spent a little more time with it. Since I plan to really put this Ruger through its paces, I suppose I'd better get busy at the reloading bench. So until next time, practice often, shoot straight, And thanks for stopping by.